Hello to all the beautiful people of the internet. Welcome to another Caterpillar file, and this time we are looking at Mercer. He is male, his hair is black. In issue 177, he is late 30s to early 40s, and in issue 183, he is early to mid 60s. Before the apocalypse, he was a US Marine, and after the apocalypse, he was the former general of the Commonwealth Army, Sebastian Milton's former personal security, and a former soldier for the militia. Not much is known about him before except that he was in the military and that he was on leave before everything started. After the apocalypse, Mercer encountered a network of communities called Commonwealth, which he subsequently joined. Due to his military background, he was placed in the Commonwealth Army and rising to the position of chief officer. He was also appointed by Pamela Milton as a personal bodyguard for her and her son Sebastian. In the volume New World Order, Mercer is watching over Sebastian, who is on a date with Kayla. Once walkers get too close to them, Mercer saves them, only for Kayla to call Mercer a pervert and walk back to the Commonwealth. Sebastian then yells at Mercer for ruining his date. Mercer is later talked down to by Pamela in order to change, promising they will discuss it later after talking with a new group of survivors from a settlement called Alexandria. In the officers' locker room, Mercer is talking to George about his frustration over how both Pamela and Sebastian belittle him and do not show him proper respect. When George suggests overthrowing Pamela, Mercer voices his agreement to the plan. However, a member of the Alexandrian group named Sadiq overhears them. Both Mercer and George see through Sadiq's weak attempts to convince them otherwise, but Mercer keeps George from attacking the man. Seeing him as a visitor to the Commonwealth, Mercer brushes the previous statements off as nothing but them blowing off steam and expresses gratefulness to how Pamela took them in. However, he does caution Sadiq that if he ever meets Sebastian, what they said about him being an a-hole is true. Mercer later sees Sebastian push several members of the Alexandrian party and slap Lodi. He goes to disarm Juanita when he gets into a fight with a few officers, but does nothing when Sebastian orders the survivors banished for threatening him. Mercer sarcastically asks if that includes everyone who was watching, pointing at Sebastian and provoked them first. After Mercer admonishes Sebastian for going around slapping people for no reason, the latter slaps Mercer as well. This angers him, who throws a menacing glare at Sebastian and causes him to quickly back down. Pamela later requests Mercer to accompany her for the trip to Alexandria. While traveling, he is asked by Pamela on what he thinks of the group of survivors. Mercer remains apprehensive but does notice how useful Eugene could be. Mercer remains close to Pamela as she formally gets introduced to Rick Grimes, the leader of Alexandria. When Rick volunteers to give Pamela a tour of the community, Mercer goes along with her. In the volume The Rotten Core, during the tour of the nearby communities, they soon encounter a herd, and Mercer reluctantly agrees to help drive the herd away. As Juanita expresses some worry, Mercer tells her to stay close to him. At the same time, Juanita informs Mercer about Pamela's wagon moving closer to observe the herd. Several walkers immediately surround Juanita and knock her off a horse. Mercer immediately goes back to save her. After the militia arrive to clear up the stragglers, Mercer is caught by surprise when Juanita kisses him in gratitude for saving her. After Pamela expresses amazement, Mercer looks for an apology for needlessly putting both Juanita and himself in danger. Pamela gives a half-hearted one and walks away, causing Mercer to scowl at her. En route to to the hilltop, Mercer asks Rick if the road they are traveling on connects all the connecting all the communities is safe. Mercer goes on to partly explain Mercer goes on to partly explain the class system in the Commonwealth, along with how he used to serve in the military as a Marine. He inquires that if they follow a similar method of assigning specific tasks, and is surprised when Rick responds in the negative. When Rick goes on to describe how no one is bound to their previous roles and everyone contributes in Alexandria, as well as everyone in their trading network, Mercer ponders it without giving a response. When they arrive at the Commonwealth, Mercer is stunned to see it in the middle of a riot and goes to help disperse the mob. When Rick goes to help clean up the Commonwealth, Mercer is surprised and glad to see he managed to convince Pamela to help as well. Later, Mercer and Juanita have intercourse, and when prompted, he says that what they have is more than just a casual one. He later helps bring in Dwight to a cell after he assaults a fellow officer and stands watch when Rick visits him. He overhears them discuss how the class system of the Commonwealth is wrong and needs to be improved. Slightly agreeing with them, Mercer reveals himself and tells Rick that he, not Pamela, is the leader the Commonwealth really needs. After a mock hunting trip led by Pamela, who barely participates, Mercer reiterates to both Dwight and Rick how it's all for show. Dwight agrees that change is needed for the Commonwealth, which Rick is still uncertain. And in the volume Rest in Peace, after Dwight is killed due to Pamela's actions and the resulting speech from both her and Rick, Mercer scowls at how Rick is still siding with Pamela. He goes home and is shocked to see Juanita packing. After hearing that she does not do well with confrontations, Mercer is saddened but understands her reasons. Venting his overall frustrations while killing some walkers, he is approached by Laura with a question to revolt against Pamela and install a new leader. Liking the idea, Mercer proposes it to George and the other officers later that day. However, Lance overhears him and expresses his dismay at Mercer. Looking for support, Mercer is shocked to see that none of the other soldiers side with him and is promptly arrested. Mercer is later visited by Pamela, who expresses disappointment with Mercer's line of action and questions his loyalty. Having had enough, Mercer finally unloads on Pamela, fiercely pointing out how her and her son treat him essentially like a whipping boy and a slave. He mentions that he is not she is not a leader but a wannabe queen who does not care if the lives of anyone except her own. Doesn't care about the lives of anyone except her own, and he wasn't going to wait until she tried appointing her for Brain's son as her successor. When Laura comes and visits him, Mercer sarcastically greets her, but is confused to see her smirking. Suddenly, the back of his cell explodes, and Mercer is showered with rubble and debris. He is glad to see George is there too, and accepts his explanation for not signing with them earlier. Having his men seize Lance, Mercer begins scouring the area for Pamela. However, a mob of Commonwealth citizens appear and call Mercer a tyrant and fascist. After shooting in the air to disperse the crowd, Mercer spots Rick approaching. Finally breaking down, Mercer sees that he will not be seen as a benevolent leader, but the Commonwealth might choose Rick instead. He reveals that Pamela is only nice to those she views as being part of the elite class, and everyone else as expendable. Rick sees the value in everyone. After hearing Rick reluctantly refuse the offer, stating the Commonwealth needs time to know him, Mercer says that it is a luxury they do not have. Rick offers to get Pamela, and since Mercer has not killed anyone, there is still time. There is still time. Just then, Eugene and Stephanie inform them of a rapidly approaching herd. Mercer is alarmed to hear Pamela pull back the outer guards for her protection and goes to mobilize the soldiers. After the soldiers, along with the militias, save the Commonwealth and clear out the herd, Mercer sees Pamela approaching with an army of her own from Greenville and hears her order for the army to attack. Before both groups start fighting, Rick yells for them to stop and once again asks them to talk. Miraculously, neither group fires a shot, much to Pamela's frustration. Rick explains to her that her army is being reasonable and implores her to follow that policy once more unless she wants to fight on her own. Rick goes on to deliver a speech to those present. After the speech, Mercer arrests Pamela, much to everyone's shock. Mercer tells Pamela that he has taken her into custody for her own safety. Furious, Sebastian protests that they can't arrest his mother and that they need them to keep the Commonwealth running, but Pamela tells him to be quiet unless he wants to end up in a cell next to her. As everyone clears the streets, Mercer commends Rick, noting how even the upper classes are helping with the cleanup. As Rick releases Pamela from jail, Mercer arrives and tells Pamela that a couple of guards will escort her to her home. As she leaves, Mercer asks Rick if he is sure about letting her go, but Rick is confident that she poses no threat since no one in the Commonwealth actually wants her in charge. Rick in turn asks Mercer if he thinks Pamela will be safe, but Mercer tells him the people are so happy he doubts that anything will happen to her, but has posted guards outside her house just in case. In the middle of the night, Rick Grimes is assassinated by the kid Mercer once guarded, Sebastian Milton. After Carl finds his undead father, he shoots him, causing Commonwealth citizens to call for a couple of guards. Carl remains motionless on the floor, and guards discover Rick's body and fetch Mercer, who immediately recognizes the murder weapon as Sebastian's gun. Mercer sends for Michonne to get Carl. 2 days later, Mercer or one of his guards finds and arrests Sebastian for the assassination of Rick Grimes. Later, Carl is summoned by Pamela, who informs him that his father's killer has been caught and that it's her son, Sebastian. Pamela says that she wanted to hear Carl's thoughts on the matter and make sure he wouldn't take justice in his own hands. Carl stokely asks if Sebastian will be punished, prompting Pamela to burst into tears. She tells him that even though Sebastian is her son and she loves him, he will spend the rest of his life behind bars for his crime. Satisfied with this answer, Carl offers his condolences to Pamela before leaving. Michonne does the same, but warns Pamela against trying to take the reins once more as Mercer looks on. The next day, Carl prepares to take his father's body back to Alexandria so he could be buried alongside Andrea. He is greeted by Michonne, who is going. Carl tells her that she doesn't need to accompany him and that he can make it on his own, which Michonne acknowledges, but tells him that he shouldn't have to. Maggie then arrives as Carl asks Carl to wait for an hour, since there are people from Alexandria who wanted to pay their respects. Carl asks who wants to come. An hour later, a large group of people gather to escort Rick's body to Alexandria, consisting of not only Alexandrians and Hilltop residents, but many Commonwealth residents as well, including Mercer. In the following 23 years, it is shown that Mercer decided to stay within the Commonwealth and eventually retired from serving within the Commonwealth Army. He eventually developed a limp and began walking with a cane. In addition, Mercer rekindles his relationship with Juanita and is frequently seen walking with their dog. Oh, I love dogs. So that is it for Mercer. Let me know what you think of this character in the comments down below. Do you think the TV series did him justice, or do you think they should have stuck with the comic route? If you like what you see, please leave a like and subscribe. If you don't like what you see, either leave a dislike or go away. I don't care. And have a good day.